all of you back. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all well. I believe this is our last night of Meditation 101, which it's hard that it happened so quickly. And I hope you had a good last weekend with the holiday. Happy Interdependence Day, right? Maybe you saw some fireworks. The frightening thing is I have some friends in the Santa Cruz, California area near where I'll be living, where I'm going to stay there for a little bit. I'm going to be staying with a student. And they said people were setting off fireworks. I mean, this is a high fire danger area, that it's very dry there now. And it's, I just don't understand people's thinking, you know, that, because it could again turn into a massive fire. And last year, several of my friends lost their homes in the Vajrasattva, the Boulder Creek, California area, which is near Santa Cruz, because of a lightning strike. So it's a very challenging area there. So thanks for joining, and let's try to put the practice together on this fifth class. And let's just start by a little review, because it's been 2 weeks now. And we talked about choosing an object on which to meditate if you're doing calm, abiding meditation, shine, building your concentration and just choosing your own object, working with that a little bit. And we talked about doing handout 8, transforming negative emotions, like that. And then I talked more about the skills of concentration and mindfulness. They're certainly different from each other. Concentration, focusing in on one object, keeping the focus like a laser on the object, focusing the mind there. Mindfulness, sometimes just checking how you're holding the object. Is it clear? Is it moving around? You know, but general mindfulness is sometimes we're not applying an antidote. I'm not analyzing anything. I'm just noticing there's discomfort in my body. I'm noticing I'm feeling unsafe in front of this person. So mindfulness isn't about fixing. Mindfulness is just the basic awareness of, oh, look what my mind's experiencing some anger right now, or for some frustration. That's enough with mindfulness. You know, that's all you're doing is just noting, and then slowly with some other techniques, we can build a way to resolve the discomfort, to resolve the discomfort. But the mindfulness is just there to observe. And then what happens when you do observe with mindfulness, slowly through your practice, you can say, oh, I'm mindful right now, I'm uncomfortable. I'm mindful that I'm stressed. And so what happens is then you might learn to practice some deeper breathing. Take a few deep breaths, as we say. It lends perspective. So when you do that, if you do it repeatedly in meditation, and then maybe you're able to do it if you're in front of a challenging person. And the reason you're able to do it in front of a challenging person is because you've done it on your cushion, practiced on your cushion over and over. Like even noticing before you shift a position, my knee is hurting right now. And you're just mindfully aware of that. And then maybe you take a few deep breaths and try to find space in your knee. Meaning just letting go the tension in the knee as you exhale, bringing in space as you inhale. And then through that practice, now I'm in front of a challenging person, actively in front, not meditating, and something triggers automatically because of the habit in my mind. I'm uncomfortable. That means take a deep breath right now. So I just find myself automatically going there, a type of refuge. And a few deep breaths, again, opens up space in the mind, certainly in the body, so that I can have a better response rather than negative reactivity. So just talking about how the practice starts to work for you. Again, it's a process, so please be patient with yourself in this process. It's not going to happen overnight, and you do need to make effort. And then let's see what else we did the last couple of weeks. We talked about obstacles, problems, things like that coming up in meditation. Okay, so let's begin and just let's start as if this is our meditation practice. And again, I am lending a suggestion of simply one way to do it. You can practice this way over and over. And as you get more into the Dharma, and as you understand more about meditation and read some books and attend some teachings and experiment and try different things, different types of meditations, you will start to develop a practice that works best for you. This is just a guideline. And this is something that works well for me. Okay, so the first thing is the posture. We've talked about that. So take a moment as you lightly close your eyes to check your posture. What do you remember about the posture? And what's important about the foundation of our meditation is we have to be relaxed in the posture. Again, we rush in, we want to meditate, rush in from our busy lives, and we sit down and expect it all just to open up. Again, so take a couple minutes right now. You've checked on your posture. If you'd like, scan your body for a moment. You can go from the top of your head to your feet. Is your body balanced? Notice any places you're holding tension in the body. And please deepen your respiration and use your breath. The inhalation opens up space in the tension. The exhalation allowing that tension to release as much as possible. That's a really important component to allow some relaxation. And if you'd like some sort of pranayama practice, a breathing practice, I mentioned the 9-round breathing. So again, if you'd like to do that to clear out some of the more subtle cobwebs in your subtle energy system, that when that's blocked, it's harder to do meditation best. So I was mentioning one variation is start by closing off your right nostril. And I begin with an exhalation instead of an inhalation, exhaling through the left nostril. Then you can switch, inhaling deeply through the right 3 times. And the first round is to lessen anger and hatred in your mind stream. And the next round, we're lessening attachment and desire, Closing off the left nostril, exhaling deeply through the right. As you inhale, you're going to inhale deeply through the left 3 times. Our last round, we're exhaling through both nostrils, inhaling through both nostrils, releasing some level of confusion and ignorance in our mind 3 times. And then allowing the mind to settle on the breath for a moment. And I'd just like you to visualize now, just over top your crown of your head, is a sphere of white light, radiant light. If you want to visualize another color, that's also fine. It's slightly smaller than the size of your head. And just concentrate on the presence of this light. And don't worry if it's not appearing so sharply. Just you get a sense that it is there. And get a sense that this light represents all universal goodness, love, wisdom. It's the fulfillment of your own highest potential. And visualize that it decreases in size until it's a small, bright sphere, about 1 inch in diameter, just over top your crown. And imagine, like a drop, it dissolves into your crown. And imagine it going right to your heart center, this drop of light, radiant light. Again, all of the goodness, all of the love and wisdom. And from your heart center, feel that it begins to expand once more, slowly spreading to fill your entire body with this positive, loving energy. And as it does this, imagine that all the solid parts of your body dissolve and become light. The bones, your arms and legs, the tissue and the skin, all of your organs become in the nature beautiful light energy. And again, if you get scared, at this dissolution. This is all of your goodness manifest. And just concentrate on this experience of your body as a body of light as much as you can. If your mind wanders, simply bring it back to this body of light and think that all problems, all negativities and hindrances have completely vanished, and that you yourself have reached a state of wholeness, of peace. And again, if any distraction arises, a thought comes sweeping through, just dissolve it into the radiant light. Just hold your concentration there as best as you can. And so from this place, just check your motivation again. You've just dissolved everything into a very blissful, positive space. And for our time together this evening, let's build on this by dedicating ourselves, motivating ourselves in this direction, that when I have issues and problems arise, this body of light meditation is always available to me. If I exercise it more and more and practice it, that's what will be available. Just think, that's what's available to you rather than negative reactivity. It lends space and perspective. It's not that all the problems on the planet have gone away. It just gives you some space and perspective. And can we use this positive energy to motivate our practice, to help us move along that path to enlightenment, as then we're unlimited in benefiting all living beings. So feel free, if you like that, to include that in your motivation. Take a moment right now to set that motivation for our time together and all the activities of the rest of your day. Please relax, and slowly you can open your eyes. wanted to lead that meditation because that's handout number 11 of the course. One of the meditations, Body of Light meditation. It's a wonderful meditation, simple. And again, like I said, the mind, you find your mind off balance. We don't know what to do. Even if you're relatively new on this path, just a very simple meditation. You can initially use the words on the page, and eventually you're struggling, and even in front of somebody, you're at a meeting, you don't like what this person's saying, and just let it all dissolve for a moment. Think of, you have this radiant light over your crown, representing all the goodness, dissolves into you. Dissolve. It's not that you're going to do it to a level where you cannot participate. That's why it's better to really do on your cushion, meaning your meditation space. But it does lend perspective. And here's a way to combine it with analytical meditation that we've mentioned. There's placement meditation, which is a bit more like this body of light meditation. You're visualizing something, placing your concentration there. But a way we use it with analytical meditation, and I think I mentioned this example, but I may have mentioned other ones. Analytical meditation, we are, again, analyzing something. But sometimes you're not ready to analyze yet because you're so upset by an incident. So for instance, years ago, I was working, at a magazine I mentioned in San Francisco, and there were some strong personalities, and there was a man I was working with who was very difficult, and I was new at the office, and he was very intimidating. So after some weeks, knowing I had to do this project with him, I started to get very tense about going in and anxious about working with him. And then when you do that, you start making mistakes and you're second guessing yourself. And so I didn't know much about meditation, and I was a new Buddhist, but I would come home and I had a little space I set up, but I would be upset from the day of something he said to me, and he's rude, and I heard what he said to this person, and that was mean. And so I would come home, and the first thing I do is, when I would sit in this space without really knowing much about meditation, but what I was able to do was first calm myself down. So if you can't first think of antidotes and what should I do, body of light, just sit there and dissolve all that hard concrete solidity, me, him, bad, good, and just let it dissolve with goodness. Because Buddhism says everybody's fundamentally good because we have Buddha nature. Doesn't mean you're Buddha nature. Doesn't mean you're a Buddha yet. It means you have a potential to become a highly realized being, to become a Buddha. Fully awakened being is what it means in Sanskrit. So, but before you really know what that's about, but I just needed something to calm me down. Body of light, put a radiant light over you, dissolves into you. It's all the goodness. Dissolve myself in the light. And and it would really relax me. And I'd be like, everything, there's problems in the world. I still have to deal with him, but everything's okay right now. I'll be able to manage. Perspective, space. That's what you're doing. And then from there, I could start analyzing. Okay, what is so scary about him? What's really the problem here? I'm holding tightly to a problem. I'm solidifying the problem that he's always like this, that there's no ability for him to change. It will always be like this. That's how our problems are often. What am I going to do now? I have this job. I want the job. I have to work with him. What do? There's always going to be some difficult being in your life in samsara. That's its nature, until we're free of our own suffering, torment that we create ourselves, like that. So I would start analyzing him. Well, what's so scary? Well, he's a big guy. Yeah. Did I really think he would physically harm me? No, I didn't think he would, and he never did. I didn't think that really was an option. So that dissolved. I'm not really in that kind of harm. Emotionally harm me, mentally. I did hear him being rude to people. He was a little rude to me. I could see, but where does that come from? So then I'd start thinking, well, where does that come from? Have I ever snapped at somebody myself? Yes. So where does it come from? My own insecurities. So he might be insecure. I start doing this in an analytical meditation. Well, you know what? I'm also insecure. Oh, that's something we have in common. And then we both have Buddha nature, have that in common. We both want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. We have that in common. There's three things suddenly, really quickly, I have in common with him. I never thought about that before. Okay? He does a really good job with his position, what he does. And he also was a bit of a perfectionist. And I kind of appreciated that because I had those tendencies as well. He wanted to do a certain really good job. I valued that, right? And so slowly, he became a real person, not this concrete monster. Slowly, and then I started realizing that all I really was focused on with him was all his negative things. And so then as I'm sitting there thinking, does he have any positive qualities? It's funny, I don't see any positive qualities in him. So does he have any? And then I started noticing a list. He values good work. He does good work. He's talented and creative. He sometimes communicates pretty well. He has a pretty clear plan with his department, what he's doing. He was more organized than a couple other managers. Like suddenly I had a list of 10 things and I could see how really good he was to his staff, how he took care of them and how he fought for them and how he got more money for them. And that was impressive, like that. I didn't really feel my boss was doing that with me so much. So suddenly he becomes, and then I made a deal with myself. Okay, next week when you go in, my job was I will only focus on his good qualities. And when a bad quality would arise, I would just let that go off like a cloud in the sky, right? As long as it didn't harm me or really anyone else. Just, okay, so he's a little flustered right now, or his voice is a little louder. Okay, it's not that disturbing, whatever. I can take a step back and, right? But I just would choose to focus on his positive qualities again and again and again, to the point of interacting with him from there. For instance, one day he had a really nice shirt on and I was able to see the shirt rather than just focusing on some negativity about him. Oh, his hair's a mess. No, instead I went, his hair's a mess. Oh, he has a really nice shirt on. And then I decided to compliment him on the shirt. You have to be genuine with the compliment. And then he was a little disarmed by that, because not a lot of people gave him positive feedback in the office because they were intimidated by him. So suddenly I have his attention now. And then what happens is over the course of a week, I've said 3 genuine, nice compliments to him. So he feels a little more comfortable with me because all he knows is he gets positive feedback from me, and people like that. People resonate with that. So as a result of it, I start having his ear more. Starts airing personal things to me, his insecurities. Maybe he raised his voice too loudly with that person, and he somehow feels safe to do that with me until we became friends. So again, you can make friends. I'm not any special holy person. You can make friends with everybody on the planet. It's kind of the way His Holiness the Dalai Lama operates, like that. You see that view of people. You have that opportunity with everyone. And then as a result, if you have to work with them and do a project, it's much more pleasant to work with your friends than somebody you're holding out there to be objective, solid enemy. And they don't exist like that anyway. So you got a false story going on that keeps you in prison, holds you hostage. Then every day you're afraid, you hate going in, hate working with him. He's a jerk for all time. Just simply doesn't exist that way. Am I making sense? Okay. So again, how we combine analytical meditation with some calm abiding, shine, some sort of visualization that helps lend perspective. And this course just is giving you a variety of different things you can turn to. I also want to point out meditation number 10 is a purification meditation, handout number 10. Now, I'm not fond of this particular meditation. And the reason is I find it very racist, the way it's written. No, I'm not, discounting and criticizing the person who wrote it. It was written many years ago. But I focused a little bit more now on certain meditations where, all the negative is dark and smoky and black and things like that. And all the positive is white and light and things. So again, create it in whatever imagery you want to use that represents positivity to you and whatever imagery represents negativity. This is a basic purification practice, but at this point, I tend to like to just do what's called a Vajrasattva practice. And Vajrasattva is an actual aspect of the Buddha, a deity, simply an aspect of the enlightened mind that helps us purify. So again, if I'm doing that with people and they don't want to visualize a deity, or they're not comfortable or familiar with that, and I might show them a little picture first, is then I'll say, then just visualize a light over top your crown that represents all that purification. And it's similar to the body of light, but you're not as much dissolving yourself. You're kind of letting stuff wash through you. And that's very powerful as well. And Vajrasattva practice in the future, if you want to learn that, it comes in other classes, is something I do every night, for instance, just to minimize and purify any negativities I did during the day, like that. So it's really powerful practice. So I'm not going to lead that one right now. You have it. It's a short meditation. You have it in your handouts. But I wanted to explain that, like, try not to get hooked into all the good is white and all the negativity is black, like that. You can change it up. Feel free. Okay. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the discriminating biased mind. And our last handout is equanimity meditation. Equanimity meditation, which we're going to do briefly. So what happens is some of our issues, and this is just nice of other techniques to use meditation for. I've given you a whole overview of different things we use it, why it's beneficial. And I just mentioned how I dealt with a difficult person. And this relates to something called friend, enemy, stranger. How we divide people up into categories so that we can feel safe and comfortable like that. But when you really look at these different categories of friend, enemy, stranger, they're very interchangeable. Okay. So we tend to, the people we don't like, they go in the enemy category. Okay. They may not be as strong as an enemy. Some people say to me, I don't really have any enemies, but you have people you don't like. Absolutely. There's people you would label difficult, challenging, people that you don't really want to spend a lot of time around for various reasons. So they're in one category. And then we have the friends, which are the people we like. And when you look at it, a lot of these things are in relation to yourself. We like them because they do good things for us and nice things. They help us. They say nice things to us. They listen to us. They flatter us, on and on. Just the opposite of the difficult person who does the opposite. And then we have strangers, and strangers are people we may know their first name, but not much more about them. So we don't have an opinion about them one way or another. Just kind of in. And then what happens is these biases we have create habitual patterns in our minds of attachment to our friends, people we like, aversion to the enemies, okay? And those things are just rooted in self-absorption and self-centeredness, self-cherishing. So what we're trying to cultivate is this mind of equanimity, mind of equanimity. It's really, really helpful. And I also know there's several different types of meditation. A basic one is called friend, enemy, stranger, we're going to do in a moment. There's a little bit more elaborate 9.1 if you want to do something deeper in a wonderful, simple Lam Rimbo called Path to Bliss. Path to Bliss. It's a commentary by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And I think it was, I somehow memorized it because it was such a powerful, but pages 160, 161, I think it is. There's like a 9-point thing of, if you're really struggling with someone, is you spend some time, just as I want to be happy and don't want to suffer. That's what they want. You can just spend 5-minute meditation session on that, just over and over looking at them. In fact, when I was at this magazine and we would have a management meeting, there'd be like 8 of us sitting around a conference table. And this particular man I just mentioned that was challenging is sometimes at the table, just sitting across, not saying anything, not with my eyes closed, obviously, because I'm in a meeting, but I would just in the back of my mind think, just as I want to be happy and don't want to suffer, he wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer, especially when he'd say something really irritating. Not to me, but just in general. And I think, okay, just as we actually want the same thing, and this meditation goes on. And thank you, Sunny, for posting different things in the chat. If you have a look, she's posted some materials and things like that. And slowly, and isn't it interesting how the person you really don't like, just like you, wants to be happy? Isn't it interesting how happiness often evades both of you at times? So you kind of slowly, methodically go through this meditation over and over, where you realize we're not all that different. You feel better and more superior to some people. We're really not all that different, right? And then we have attachment to dear people. So again, when did your dear friend, it could be a lover that you had, it could be somebody you had children with, and now you're divorced and you never see them and you never really want to see them. How many times has that happened on the planet? Somebody you had children with. That's pretty intimate. That's pretty tight. You created children with this person. Now you don't want to speak to them. So again, there was friend, there was intimate friend. And isn't it interesting how they moved into a different category? How did that happen? And then you have enemy. My last boyfriend before I got ordained, before I was a nun and I could have relationships, then when I met him, he came to work for our center part-time, and I was new running the center. And he was really difficult as a staff person. He didn't show up on time. He didn't turn up. He was late. People were looking for him. He wasn't doing his job. And he was a real hassle for me, frankly. Like managing the center, I was new. I didn't know what I was doing, like that. So initially, the first few months, it was like, who is this guy? Then karma, something shifts, like that. Interesting. We were in a retreat together, just a short little New Year's retreat, and then something shifted because of the retreat. Some different karmic seed bubbled, and then suddenly we wanted to explore, being involved, like that. Again, switches into this category. Then, taking a stranger, you have all these people on the planet, you don't really have much of an opinion, and you don't really go out of your way for them. Okay. So I was in retreat, long time in California, several months. And when I did this meditation over and over, I happened to the stranger use a woman at our health food store, Lisa. I only knew her first name. I didn't know anything about her, but I'd see her at the store. I've told this story before. I'd see her at the store, but I didn't really have much of an opinion. I just see her in the aisle. Okay, there's Lisa. We had exchanged first names. That was it. But then I'm back. I don't go into town. 7 months I'm in this retreat. And if I did this meditation, she was my stranger. I would just see her there, think of her. It was easy. Didn't have much of an opinion. But because I was with her for 7 months in my meditation, she became kind of dear to me. So I spent time with her, and just in my mind. So when I finished retreat, finally went into town one day and went into the health food store to get something, she was still working there, and there she was at the end of one of the aisles. Amazing. I kind of forgotten. I didn't so much think about it. I mean, I did have a thought. I wonder if she's still working there, because people change a lot in California. And there she is, and I go down the aisle, and from my side, it must have been very strange to her. But I see her, and I'm all excited to see her now. Right? I've had 7 months with Lisa. And I see her, and I come up, and I'm like, Lisa. I said to her, can you imagine? And she's a little disarmed, because I'm still a stranger to her. So I remember her kind of like looking up at me and like, yeah, like a little like, what is it? What? And then I realized I had to kind of back off, because I realized, I'm not going to say, well, by the way, you were my stranger in my meditation. And then I kind of, got myself composed, and I said, oh, hi, I'm really glad you're still working here. I said, I've been on retreat for several months. And she goes, oh, and then she said, I realize I haven't seen you in a long time. And then there's a nice connection, but a little bit more connection than we had before, like that. So the fact that I knew 7 months before she was there, and, interested, like that. So again, those categories shift. And what happens is, if you can shift them and dissolve the concreteness, the solidity of them a little bit, your mind is more peaceful. because you have less attachment, less aversion. Again, that equanimous mind, seeing all beings together, be friends with all beings in a sense, but in a balanced way, not overly attached friend, the way we usually have our friends, like that. Let's try this meditation. This is your last handout, number 12. And I'm trying to follow the meditations pretty clearly, like reading from them. So it is more familiar for you if you can do these meditations. So again, just sitting comfortably. And I think our class ends at 8:30. Is that correct? Yeah, I just wanted to check. Just sitting comfortably. And again, just place your mind on your breath for a moment. It's always a nice settling place. And I'm leading you right into the actual meditation when normally you'll see in the handouts, there's space to adjust your posture and definitely a motivation first. So we've already set our motivation for the class. So I go right into the meditation. So please imagine right now in the space in front of you are 3 people facing you, seated across from you. Someone you like, someone you dislike, and someone you feel indifferent toward. And as best as you can, throughout this meditation, keep these 3 images in your mind as if they're seated across from you. So just choose these 3 people. Don't obsess too much about it, but just place 3 people there. Let's first focus on the friend, person we like, and allow your feelings for this person to arise strongly. And as you do, feel your conviction that this person is definitely and truly a friend. It's a person who is good to you. They're good for you. They fulfill your needs and wishes. And also notice how you really would like them to be happy. So just focus on this for a while, identifying these good feelings in relation to this person. Now I'd like you to shift your attention to the person you don't like, what we might label enemy, person who's not kind to you, person who doesn't satisfy your needs, person who interferes with your agenda or annoys you or makes you angry, who harms you, or someone you love. Carefully regard this person and notice, just observe the feelings you have about this person. And let's shift right now to the stranger. Again, a person, you might know their first name, but you really don't know much more about them. So you don't have a like or a dislike about them. Just carefully look at this person and observe your feelings of indifference. Now notice that the nature of these relationships, the relationships with these three beings, the labels you put on each of them is based solely on what they do or don't do for you at this particular point in time. So again, as I mentioned before, there's people you've been very, very close to, close friend. There was a disagreement or a misunderstanding, and they moved into a different category. And the same with difficult people that you found a common thread. Some kindness was showed one way or another, and they moved from the enemy category into the friend category. And the same with strangers who moved into either category of friend or enemy. So the labels are quite temporary, quite impermanent, based on whatever situation is operating at any given time. So let's go back to the friend for a moment. Look at your friend and imagine a situation that could cause the friendship to end. Imagine the friend turns against you. They say something publicly negative about you. How would you feel in this situation? Just observe what would arise in your mind in this situation as if it's happening to you. Do you still feel so warm and so friendly towards this person? Do you still wish them well? Want them to be happy? Where's your friend now? Where's that solid image of friend now with this unfortunate circumstance that has arisen, that could arise? And remember, this person was not your friend before you were introduced, before you met. To recognize how easily this person could cease to be your friend right now, just as you imagined. Think how fleeting it is. You don't know them. stranger category. You're introduced, you meet some common thing, and then suddenly friend. So there's really no sound reason for feeling kind and loving towards just the friend at this moment. Relationships have changed in the past and they continue to change. Today's friend can be tomorrow's enemy. I certainly hope that's not the case, but that could happen, and it has happened in the past. Let's move our attention right now to the present enemy, person you don't like in your visualization. And imagine a situation that could bring you together, bring you closer in a positive way. A common interest, a genuine compliment, kindness. Just imagine as if that's happening between the two of you. And notice your feelings towards this person as this is happening. Are your feelings softening towards this person, becoming warmer? So you can learn to feel better about your enemies. It's happened before, it'll happen again. So again, why do you hold so strongly to this idea of other in a negative way, the other person, difficult, challenging person, person I don't like? For some people, labeling them enemy, horrible person. Why do we cling so strongly to that? Doesn't it solidify it and give it a permanent nature that they have no ability to change, that relationship has no ability to shift? Let's move our attention now to the stranger and imagine how one act of kindness, one act of anger from this person could immediately turn them into a friend or an enemy, respectively. There's no inherent, concretely existing stranger there. That's how we feel they are. According to Tibetan Buddhism, that doesn't exist. There's no sound reason for the feelings of indifference we hold on to. We just haven't had an opportunity yet to meet them. We haven't had the time to find the common bond. Okay? And remember that your present friend and your present enemy were both strangers to you beforehand. So this enemy could become a friend. This stranger could become a friend. They could become an enemy. All interchangeable. So just again, gazing at the three people in the space in front that you visualize. And think about the fragile impermanence of these relationships. It's only your misconceived belief in the solidity of these labels, in the concreteness of these labels, a friend, enemy, stranger, that holds your mind back from the possibility of change and fluidity. It's your choice. Your friend, enemy, and stranger, they all want happiness just as much as you do. In this respect, we're all equal. Also, everyone is equal. Just consider this, in having the potential to develop their minds to the fullest extent, to achieve ultimate clarity, compassion. So the differences we see in people are quite superficial, simply based on our mistaken and narrow self-centered views. In fact, everyone's equal in deserving our care and compassion, as much as we're able to give that. So now none of this means that we shouldn't have some discrimination, okay? On a practical level, we have to distinguish between actions, between individuals. We have to do that to protect ourselves, to participate in society, okay? And naturally, we feel closer to some people, and we are wise to keep distance from other people, okay? That's not really contradictory to the meditation above. It's just simply practical. You cannot take every homeless person into your house. That may not be practical for you, but you can have an equal regard for them, the same as I might have a very loving, pleasant regard for a friend. But the point of the meditation is to develop equal concern, equal regard for everyone, for their well-being, whether they help or harm us at this point in time. And to see that the labels we put on others are often mistaken and very changeable. So just acknowledge these three beings before we let them go in any way that you like right now. And slowly allow them to dissolve back into the space from which they came. And if it's the end of your practice, you would add the dedication here that is at the end of this handout. But take a moment and relax. We'll dedicate at the end, and slowly open your eyes when you're ready. Any questions in regard to your practices? And I did want to ask, when I mentioned about choosing an object on which to meditate, I just wanted to check in with you. Did you try? How's it going? Things like that. If there's anything people want to ask or comment. Which objects might have worked better for you? Which objects didn't work? You have to get to the cushion to do this. So any comments, questions, anything in general? Okay. Yes, Patty.
Yeah, my question is dealing, with a lot of family stuff right now, and I'm finding that I want to put some of my dear loved ones, while they're still in the friend loved one category, I also want to put them in the enemy category. And I don't mean enemy, just difficult.
Mhm.
And that, I mean, I'm sure, can you do both in the same person in two different categories, I guess is the question.
You could to some degree. Some people do that. I think it's easier to find different people, but sometimes it's, that person certainly, and the thing is, we are so multifaceted, right? And we ourselves manifest in different ways with different people. So the other thing is, what I really like to do is owning it, like really acknowledging, as Tibetan Buddhism says, everything comes from the mind. So I do find it really lends to more peace in my mind, that I'm taking responsibility, that this person, and the person may be really blatantly annoying. I'm acknowledging that in my mind, but I don't have to negatively interact from that space. Meaning somebody's really annoying you. And I've seen people yell at people. I've seen them verbally snap at people. I've seen them kind of ignore people and walk away. And I've seen them talk to other people about how horrible that person is. Those you have to think about as you get more into karma in other classes, because this is more of an intro class. As you study more karma, you realize I've got certain seeds I've planted in my consciousness. This is what Tibetan Buddhism says. You may not believe this. They say it's a law, like whether you believe it or not, it's unfolding, okay? But basically, with my body, speech, and mind, I plant seeds in my mind and my consciousness. The good seeds ripen in happiness for me, the bad seeds ripen in suffering, which means a difficult person can show up. So when I see that happening and you have discomfort arise, body and mind, like the first thing you notice is, this is really uncomfortable. I don't want to be around these people, okay? So as I notice that, Tibetan Buddhism, right away, I'll say, well, so look what my mind's showing me right now. It could be really strong. You could be attacked, okay? But what the normal world is doing, and you have to check your own experience. I would say, I hope this never happens, but let's say you're attacked. Our normal world and cultural experience, from my experience, has been you try to attack back. I mean, you may try to run away, but you run away in deep fear. Or some people try to attack back and retaliate like that. So there's different things, rather than like mainly what we'd say if you are being physically attacked or something, even verbally. In Buddhism, try to remove yourself safely from the scene. De-escalation is the main thing. And then later thinking, wow, that was some, like, practicing Buddhists would say that was some deep purification. Person nearly attacked me or whatever. So we would see it as a type of purification. I'm not minimizing the trauma or what happened or the shock. But what you have to check when you retaliate, and you can do it, and a meditation, I'm going to go and yell at that person and tell them what they did wrong. And then notice, how do you feel after that? How does it really work? Does that really dismantle the situation? Usually it causes more hostility. It's pouring oil on the fire. But you have to check yourself and see. So again, if you have a family member and you may have worked with them and tried to tell them and try to say, well, I really wish you wouldn't just interrupt and come to the house when we're not ready to have you come, or then when you're here, you do this, and they're not maybe that aware. So it's me controlling my mind in relation to them, subduing the causes in my mind that cause them to be a difficult person out there. You can't change them. So you may want to have a gentle conversation about one thing, but don't expect much. Don't expect them to change. But when I change my mind, that changes the external projection that's playing on the reality of my life. That changes your external reality. I've had, honestly, examples of that in my own life. So it convinces me more. It's builds the faith for me. It doesn't come that quickly, but it definitely, you can see results when you start dismantling the delusion in your mind. You have to try, and meditation's the beginning of that for us. So slowly, it's definitely a process as well. It's a process. Yeah. Does that make sense? I think you're doing it. I think you're working on it from knowing you.
Yeah.
Sheil, please. How
Oh,
are you doing?
Hi, good evening, Venerable. I'm okay. Thank you so much for all that you do to help us. I want to say that since I've been in touch and listening to your talks, there's just a shift in how I feel, and I'm really happy to say thank you. My question is, um, do you recommend, like, when we do these meditations, and for example, I'm going to speak for myself. Like, I have said, like, texted, not said. I've said harsh, words to a friend of mine. We're not any longer friends, but is it recommended that if we have the opportunity that we reach out to that person, not that you want a friendship with them again, that, like, I guess the karma is over between us. But it didn't end. I'm not proud of my text. And I just sometimes wonder, do we do like a meditation to let go of that? Or if we have the opportunity, and as awkward and uncomfortable and embarrassed I may be to, call this person up and leave a message, is it something recommended that I could do, or is it better left unsaid?
It's if you had a bad parting with someone, it's you can do Tonglen meditation. It's a higher level meditation that you can learn, giving and taking, putting them in front of you, and that's a whole different kind of course. Tonglen meditation, Tonglen. But in order to do that, you should have some more Buddhist basis behind you, because you're taking the suffering of someone else, offering them happiness. And that's why it's higher level. It used to be part of a secret method to develop bodhicitta, the enlightened attitude. The reason it was secret is, who wants to take people's suffering? So if you're not kind of practiced in Buddhism, you wouldn't really understand that. Like most non-Buddhists would say, what kind of meditation are you doing? You want to take somebody's suffering and give away your happiness? Why? Because everybody wants happiness. So again, when you put that person across from you, I've healed some great riffs of just over and over doing this Tonglen meditation. It's a visualization, can be done in different ways. It's very powerful. But the best thing is if you can directly speak to them and apologize. Apologizing softens and dismantles so much hostility between people, genuinely apologizing. And whether you've done anything or not, it defuels the hostility like that. And I sometimes even acknowledge, to somebody, especially if you're Buddhist, you can do it, whatever I've done in this life or past lives, like something got created in my mind that is causing hostility between us. Now, you might have something in your mind over there, but I'm going to take responsibility for my mind. That's all I can take responsibility for. So I really deeply apologize for any harm I've ever caused you. Whatever has disturbed your mind, I'm so sorry. And it immediately, I've noticed again and again and again, what can the other person say? That, I've had one person that kept kind of bashing me after that, like saying, well, those are empty words. But basically by that evening, she had come around and really, because she realized, like, it's like hitting somebody when they're down. And when you really genuinely mean it, and basically it just seems to dissolve all the conflict. That's been my experience. So if there's a way to just take ownership and say, like, whatever I said, I'm so sorry, that can just diffuse, because you don't want to leave that stuff. You want to heal relationships. Doesn't mean you need to continue to be friends. That's okay. But you definitely want to heal those kind of things.
Thank you, Venerable.
Yeah. So sorry, sometimes I can't read long things in the chat, but there's one thing here. Added that the enemy need not be actively in your life for you to transform hate and negativity into, yep. That's right. The enemy doesn't have to be it could be somebody from the past. Some people have used prominent figures if they don't have a difficult person in their life. There's some prominent national figures that we get hooked by mentally. People spend a lot of time trashing this politician or somebody. What do you need to do that for? So you could use somebody like that and think about their situation like that, which diffuses holding them so solidly out there, which just keeps holding your mind hostage like that. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let me review. I'll take some more questions too if you have, but I want to just talk about, in our conclusion of the last 15 minutes or so, establishing a long-term meditation practice. So I've been talking about this throughout. And I also just want to, a quick review of where we've been, just to refresh you again. We've been talking about setting up meditation posture, relaxing, scanning the body to relax, maybe doing a 9-round breathing, setting a motivation at some point early on in that practice. And then we had different meditations of counting the breaths, like that, and establishing a place in your home that you can do that you can find that meditative space. So, so important, like that. I talked about different kinds of cushions to sit on. It's okay to shift your position until the body's more comfortable in a sitting posture. You can sit in a chair, just have the body balanced, right? We talked about the nature of the mind being clear and knowing. So this is why we meditate, is to get more in touch with that aspect of our mind, those two qualities, clarity and awareness, so that when I fall off and have a huge delusion in my mind, I'm not as manipulated by it, because I realize that's not actually the nature of the mind. It's something I can clear out. How do I clear it out? With meditation. So you learn other meditations to add on. So we did some clarity of consciousness meditation, like your mind is like the sky, or your mind is like a mountain, a clear mountain lake, noticing some disturbance like clouds or ripples in the water. But we're not staying with those. They subside as I let go the agitated thoughts, like that. So those are some of the things that we've been talking about. And we talked about how to do shine, calm abiding, choosing an object, keeping the mind focused, doing short sessions. We've talked about analytical meditation, stabilizing or placement meditation like shine. And we also talked about antidotes when you get very distracted in meditation and when your mind is also very sleepy. How do we kind of lift the mind up a bit? One overall thing I would say with your long-term practice, please be patient with yourself. Please be patient with yourself. And let's see what else we've talked about. And again, consistency and patience are right now going to be kind of your best friends. So meaning, can you at least try, for those of you really new, 10, 15 minutes a day, maybe 10, 15 minutes in the morning, 10, 15 minutes in the evening, just slowly starting the way I'm building it up to get some habitual tendency, so that you realize, and noticing when you don't have that time, how's your mind? More peaceful, more spacious? Because a lot of people say if they don't even have that motivation in the morning, for me, sometimes the day doesn't go as well. They're a little crankier. And somehow that motivation, getting it started, there's a little buoyancy to the day. And they can bring up the motivation again when they become a little bit more imbalanced. And then another thing is, when delusions arise in our mind, which we have them going on all the time as ordinary beings, that. So we did a meditation on transforming negative emotions. And we analyze fear a little bit. So each of our delusions as they arise, meaning if you have anxiety arise, we looked at fear a bit, type of anxiety, fear, worry. You have to analyze, right? If you're depressed, analyze the depression. What are you really depressed about? It could be, you say, well, I have tremendous financial difficulties right now. Okay, so then you need to deal with it. And that means you need to first practically analyze off your cushion. Maybe you do some of it on your cushion. What can I actually do? I need to get a job. Okay, I need to look for a job. I need to get my resume out there with different people, different agencies, you do what you can do. You do the practical stuff you can do. Okay, and then the excess worry about it, if you're doing everything you can do maybe you need to take out a loan. Maybe you need to borrow money from a friend or a colleague with sincere timeline that you'll repay it. You take all the practical things, then what is there to worry about? You've done it. Maybe you need to downsize. Maybe you can't afford that apartment. I need to move to something simpler. Those are all the practical things to let the worry and the fear go if you're taking care of business like that. And depression, anxiety, all those delusions, we looked at, they're simply a habit in the mind. They're habits in the mind. They're simply in the mind because there's a previous moment of them in the mind. And that those particular habits happen to be stronger in the mind, like that. So we're just going to have a look at it, and then I'm going to deal practically with what I can do about it, and the rest of it, let it go, because you're doing everything you can do. There's nothing more you can do. And a worry and fear, you might lose your apartment. You might end up on the street. Then talk to some friends and family about that, so that that's not going to happen to you. Make sure there's some solid place you're going to go. For most of us, I don't think it's as extreme as that, but it could happen like that. So people have all these unfounded kind of worries and fears. Again, take care of business as clearly, as compassionately, as effectively as you can. And you do your best, and there's nothing more you can do. So why worry? Why worry? Like that. And then understand that you have karmic seeds ripening that can cause great misfortune for you. Okay. Then we purify. You do purification practices. Ideally, if you really get on this path and you like this path and you want to continue on the trajectory and you start deepening your understanding through classes, reading, meditation, then you might be able to meet highly realized beings like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and one day maybe to consult with him about advice for your life problems, for your practice, things like that. Some of it you can do without even meeting him. You can get advice from him via email. You know, this is the 21st century. So they, you know, because he's in Nepal, it doesn't mean you can't get advice from him. And I know people that have done it that haven't even met him, but they have faith and they really sincerely want to do the practice. So it's not about just asking him, because then you'll know and you just want to ask, and you really have to sincerely want to devote to the practice like that. Don't waste his time like that. You don't want to waste his time getting all this pages of information and things. So we've talked also about the difference of concentration and mindfulness, and then tonight's thing of, you know, the dissolving into light, meditation, and equanimity. Okay, so let me go. So developing, again, oops. Sorry, I just lost my page. Hang on a second. Here we go. So setting up a meditation practice is, again, in your daily life, you have to figure out what's going to work, what's going to realistically work. If you have more time for retreat and you ever expect to do that, you could set up an afternoon, you know, a little bit longer sessions like that. And again, you know, I mentioned the components that we're doing that you've already got, that I just went over. Finding that conducive place. Wait, I'm still looking for I just lost my page here, sorry. Sorry about this, I don't know what happened to my. Okay, a second. Okay, here we go. So the long-term meditation practice, I mentioned consistency and patience. Keeping up enthusiasm, perseverance. This is hard. And this is why it's really helpful. And I know right now a lot of our centers are closed, but why it's really helpful right now to at least join some of the Zoom programs. Shantideva has a wealth of wonderful programs. So, or other centers that you're connected to. And the reason is you just see other people on the screen. It's going to be easier when we get in person for the centers that are maybe going to start opening in the autumn. Where you're there, it's part of your community if you can get to a center. I found that for newer people, it's enormously helpful. It's enormously helpful. And you meet a friend there, somebody that you find, and you find out, oh, for New York, you might take the subway home together. You walk home together. You take the bus, or you give somebody a ride for places where people drive at a center. And you, oh, I'm going that way. I'll give you a lift. And slowly, something in common, so that you hear about their meditation, you hear what they're doing. They participated in this teaching. I find that kind of group experience and getting to know people helps support a lot of people with their practice, especially in the beginning. You compare techniques. You could talk about different teachers you've gone to. This was helpful for me. This wasn't helpful. Like that. That can really help to keep that momentum and enthusiasm up. It can be really hard on our own as we're isolated like that. But again, do the best you can. And the way we can connect right now is through online teachings where you see other people. And sometimes there's discussion and things like that. Some of the courses I'll do, we might join a breakout group. I'll break people into a breakout group where then there you are one-on-one with somebody. People have made friendships that way. And that's kind of the best we can do right now until the centers open up. So explore again the benefits you're noticing with meditation. If you have any benefits in your life from doing it, notice that it's helpful. You know, it was really sweet, Sheila saying, oh, since I've been doing this, I'm really like she's noticing that something is really helping at this point, and that attracts you to it. And you go, wow, maybe if I do it more, spend more time, that may really be helpful, you know. And again, knowing that it's going to get difficult at times. There will be days, maybe weeks, that your mind is really uncooperative. That's part of the practice. That's part of the practice. Hang in there. Hang in there. Just keep that consistency that it does level something positive for your life and your mind. There's definitely lending some support for you to get a little bit of space and a little bit more control over your mind, like that. So I'd really also, in closing, would like to thank everyone for joining, because it's worthwhile for you to meditate. So I really want to thank you for showing up each week for your meditations. Any other questions and things and concerns you've got of, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But again, with the printouts, the handouts, you can have them on your computer. You can have them on a tablet that is in front of you while you're meditating. Okay? Any way you want to do it, that's fine. As long as the rest of the computer and the device is not distracting you. But more and more, many students, old students, are keeping all their prayers on their devices so that they come to retreats with these tablets, and that's their workstation now. It's not all these papers and things. That's fine. And what you do is, if you have the handout, just like I did tonight, you read a couple sentences. Read a couple sentences. It's right there in front. Close your eyes and contemplate those sentences. Go to a deeper level with those sentences. Really come from the different angles. What really think laser pointed on that topic, on that one sentence or two sentences. That's your meditation. And then little time, and then you go to the next couple sentences. That's how I learned how to meditate. Use the sheet, use the handout, have it in front of you. Nobody says you don't need to do that you're supposed to have it all in your head. Absolutely not in the beginning. Just keep reading, go on, and then do it over. Do it again, do it again, do it again. That's how we do it. And eventually you won't need the page. You'll know what you're doing with the body of light. Like that. Absolutely. Okay. Make sense? So, sorry, I'm just looking if there's anything else there's some programs in the chat. Okay, where does what fall within shamatha meditation? Sorry, Nick, can you elaborate? Where does what fall? You said, where does this fall? I'm not sure what you're referring to, if you can mention. Nick, do you want to say? Can you unmute and say what you're referring to?
I've been studying shamatha, and a lot of these seem to align with some of the practices. So I was just wondering if shamatha is part of this sort of progression, or is it a separate thing?
So again, shamatha is a Sanskrit word for shine. Shine is Tibetan, calm, abiding. And so I mentioned how the analytical meditation fits together with shamatha.
Right.
So you need both of them. So what we're first doing is we may practice on the side some shamatha or shine meditation, meaning when I asked you to select an object on which to meditate, a visual object, I said pick one or two, but stay with one for 2 or 3 days and then try another object. Ideally, we'd like to focus on an image of the Buddha because it's uplifting for the mind and leaves a positive imprint on the mind. So I think you weren't in the earlier classes, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so listen to the recording because I already mentioned that.
Okay.
So basically you're using shine to build some concentration. And then when we do analytical meditation, which is separate, we're analyzing something to come to a realization, an insight. You know, if I'm analyzing, I'm definitely going to die, death is coming, there's nothing I can do. And then at some point you come to a juicier experience of that, where you realize I am really going to die. You have like an aha moment. When you have that moment, then you take your concentration, the shine mind, and place it on that experience to deepen it. That experience will fade, and then you go back and analyze more quickly to once again place your concentration there to deepen. Okay? And that's how we combine analytical meditation with calm abiding. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now the thing is, we need shine, calm abiding, ultimately to have a direct perception of emptiness, the nature of reality. That's really the point of why we want to get shine. But it does help us build all those other lamrim realizations, which will lead us to emptiness ultimately. Thank you. Sure. And then see if there's any other. Yeah, personal retreat, Nick. Absolutely. You ready? Because they will be coming in the future, especially when our centers get open. But I think it would be brilliant for everybody. And I think you would love it, actually, from the conversation I had with you. Really helpful. Okay. Let's see if there's any other questions. As far as the recording, you'd have to talk to Shanti Deva Center about that. Eventually, I'll put it on my website. My website is connected again to, it has a YouTube channel. So I'll just put my website. There's a lot of topics on there that you can view right now based on the topic. There's the website. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay. So what I'd like to do in closing, and again, I really want to thank all of you, and I want to thank Shanti Deva Center. And I'd like to thank all of our hosts, particularly Sunny, who's been with us through many, many weeks here. Thank you so much. To all of you to please, if you can, please, please, please try to stay with a meditation practice to develop something. No competition, no expectation. All you can do is try your best. And it will be really, really beneficial for you. So I hope we can meet again and meditate together and do some retreat together, please. And if you're interested, hopefully maybe next year I'll be leading a pilgrimage to Nepal. There's information on my website as well. It may be in the spring, April, May period, to the Mount Everest region of Nepal to do retreat at Laudo, Gompa. And there's no better retreat place to do retreat, I feel, other than that place. So it's really special to do retreat there. So I'm hoping things will be safe enough to do it, but if not, next year we'll do it the year after. But I'm really hoping we might be able to visit Nepal. We'll see. So you can let us know if you're interested. There's an email there, you can send info. But I'd like to dedicate the merit right now. And I'm going to share some dedication prayers. And Rinpoche, I'm going to share my screen. Rinpoche has suggested that we do these, especially now with the COVID situation. So feel free if you'd like to join in. I would like to take whatever positive energy we have created to whatever merit, in a sense, that we have created. And let me know if you cannot see these prayers, but I would like to dedicate to all the beings with COVID and other illnesses, mental and physical, to be healed instantly. For anyone who's died in the last 49 days, may they immediately take a precious human rebirth to get enlightened to benefit all. I particularly like to dedicate to Pythagoras in Brazil, who is a dear friend of mine, brother who passed away from COVID, and for some other people needing additional support right now. Joanne Lemson, Jody Galt, Ross Lasley, and Norma Harris, and Alan Glick, if we can, and also my neighbor, Jean, across the street, who's having breast cancer surgery next week, unfortunately. So for all these beings, and there's many, many more beings, let's invest our merit in really helping them and also helping our own practice so we can become Buddhists quickly through our great meditation practice and really be of the most benefit to all living beings. O Janju Senjo Rinpoche, Mage Panam Ge Gyurchig, Ke Panyam Pa Me Pa Yi, Gonne Gondu Bel Warsho. However many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed from all sicknesses. May all the sicknesses without exception of transmigratory beings never occur again. In all my lives never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. And this prayer of Samantabhadra, let's see, where did that go? I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. And I'd like to dedicate to the long lives of our precious teachers, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. For Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the three sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Thank you so much again. And I really hope we meet again, and please be well.